around in a movie. You can't get him out. Even God himself can't get him out. I mean, an image is an image. Can you take and create a movie and then make the people come out and be alive? We don't know how to do that.
Only a genie.
Genie.
Yeah, but they're alive.
Wait, he got it. We need a genie. What's his name? Jesus. Right. Okay, now we're getting there. We got it.
They're back at the studio.
Yeah. We have 7 genies. Okay, so now you see Lucifer's rebellion is valid. So what does he say to God? Can I have a little tiny bit of divinity? And God says, no.
No.
But I'll give you myself. Kiss my hand. Worship me. And I will bless you with divinity. But Lord, I'm a bird in a gilded cage. Am I not mean? Is a bird in a gilded cage. What is it? Is it not well taken care of?
Yeah.
But is it happy?
No.
What?
Like in a cage.
He's not himself. He's nothing. He has no value to himself. We call it in psychology being self-aware or conscious. Do you get it? What happened? Because there was nothing to give Lucifer, he decided, well, God, if I can be nothing, I'll leave. God said, fine. You have to become less than nothing. You get it?
Almost naked.
No, what's less than nothing? In other words, nothing is a blessing, which is a positive. But if you become less than nothing, you have to go to the negative side and become evil. And if you become evil, you have to enter the curse. So now what are the words of Lucifer? Now, when he was at his knees, he said, oh, my Lord, will you give me a little bit of divinity? But on the door out, after the storm, after we'll march out of here, we do not want any part of this. What are his words on the way out? So this is your department. Remember when Lucifer says, I'll build my kingdom higher than yours. Okay? So on the way out, he embraces being less. Now you got to get these words. Less than nothing. And you've got it. You now understand. He's saying, God, I would rather rule hell than serve you in heaven. We turn then, and he says, God says, yes, but your time will be short. And Lucifer turns and says, but to be free, okay, now here's the big moment, to be free for a moment is worth it. Now you understand Lucifer. He would rather be less than nothing. And what does he get here? What does he own here? He owns himself. He owns himself for a split second in eternity. And he's telling God it's worth it. Is it worth it?
Yeah.
Well, he says it is. And he's trying, who did he try to convince? Now you've got the next piece of the pie. Who does he try to convince it's worth it? No.
Creation.
What people? What person?
Himself.
No. No. One story. Eve.
Oh, that's right.
What does he say to Eve?
You can become like God.
What was he telling her?
To become.
How to do it? I'm like God. What did he mean by the words, I'm like God? God owns himself. You get it now?
Yeah.
And I own myself. And I'm like God. Why? Not because he's like God. Not because he's divinity. Not because he's still not part of that picture. He's himself because he is running under free will. Okay, got it?
Yeah.
So this thing now means free will. What does he tell Eve? If you eat of this tree, you will become free will. Therefore, you will join me in owning yourself. And she does. So, what does God say to Adam and Eve? Look, he repeats the words. You are nothing. Now you are less than nothing, and you draw my curse of original sin. Get it? So what does that make you and I tonight?
Less than nothing.
We are less than nothing.
We're evil.
We are evil. We're like God, are we not? Image and likeness, there we are.
Yeah.
And we own ourselves, we do. Except we're evil. Okay, now we get to the hard part. Okay, we've gone through all this. Adam and Eve have been created. Original sin has been created. And all of a sudden, a compromise is struck, isn't it? Okay, God backs off. What's he saying? Well, Lucifer, I'm never going to forgive you because you should have known better. But Adam and Eve, I'm going to give you a second chance. But it was a great deal different than just saying, you're forgiven. Here was the deal. I'm going to send my son into the image and likeness, transform you, and bring you out to be in the creation of me as spirit. So remember when we had spirit here, and he had come out to become spirit? Well, we don't get to come out and stand as people, but we do get to come out in spirit through Jesus Christ, the genie.
Yeah.
Okay, digest that one. So he came into our illusion and is offering each of us illusions, which are less than nothing, to become all through the Spirit. Notice he didn't offer us the flesh to be like God in the flesh, because only he, the genie, could do that. Why? Why could Jesus Christ do it? Why could Jesus Christ walk in there and in the Spirit transform each of us into himself and then step back out of that television? Why could he do it? You getting it yet? Look, because look, Jesus is physical. He's created. And Christ is divine. So now he can fit on both sides. He can be in the illusion and out of it anytime he wants. And that's what he's doing. So when he was on Calvary, God came and said, he was talking to Jesus, you are less than nothing. Jesus said, okay. And he, what did he do to make himself less than nothing? He died. But when he died to selfishness. And he resurrected as God.
I gotta, stop. When Jesus died, he went like to sleep, kind of like you were talking right now. So when he rise, he thought about it, he thought and then woke up,
That's right. He did exactly that. Okay, perfect. Okay, anybody doubt the Holy Spirit is here? Did you hear what he said? You know what he just said? When I started this entire moment, he went back and took me back right here and said, Bill, go back to the beginning and describe the pure divinity, and he returned to that moment. Because he went to sleep in death and woke up.
Yeah.
When he woke up, resurrection. But when he resurrected, guess who came with him?
So
all of us. Humanity. Not the angelic realm. The created realm of physical creation came with him. And that is what this is all about. When you go into self-sacrifice and submission, you are actually returning to that moment. That's why we're using submission to enter the divine will of God. So that we can be born again. In what? In the Spirit. And that's the cycle we're trying to get people to see. Now, who's the genie? Well, Jesus Christ is the real genie, except he transfers, and this is now going to hit your Eucharist, he transfers his authority to the church to become the genie. And the church now has the authority to actually bring about taking people out of the television and bring them into reality, which we call heaven. And they see God. Now, try it out on the people at work.
They'll go, what?
They're never going to believe you.
Okay, how you doing, Willie? I get my benchmark over there. If he starts going, nod, I'm in pretty good shape.
And that's deep. That's very good. It's the foundation.
This is the foundation. But catch the word, formless. When God is formless, he is in his perfect state of divinity. Now, because of that, he wanted to then come out of that into form. But he couldn't. Why? Because he'd be alone. If he takes form, what form is he going to take? Same one he just was. So he wanted to add to his form through the angel. Okay, now let's go over the story. We now know Calvary, through formlessness, takes on divinity, Just exactly reversed. Notice he went reversed as how God came out. God came out from formless to form.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ went from form to formless and back.
Yeah.
Now he resurrects. Now we've now got the resurrection, we got the church, and we now have to become formless. Each of us have to become formless. We have to do what Jesus Christ did. Now, we can't pop up in here, can we?
No.
So, we have to pop up in the church. In other words, if we popped up here, we'd be God. But if we pop up here, we'll enter the Spirit of God, and now you can understand the Holy Spirit. Keep your mind grinding. Do you understand where the Holy Spirit's coming from? Because we couldn't enter the actual divinity, we had to enter the spirit of divinity. So the Spirit of God, which we call the Holy Spirit, now becomes the church. So when we enter the church, we're entering the Spirit of God, and we're now out of the television. We're not out of it physically. We're out of it spiritually. If we were out of it physically, who would we be? Jesus Christ himself. What do we call it? When we become Christ-like, we become out of the television physically. Now, if we get the inheritance, we get the transfigured body, which is not a physical body, a spiritual body, which is Christ-like. And now it explains why we had to do that process.
That will come rapture in heaven.
Mm-hmm. But I'm explaining to you why they took that step.
Very logical. You know what you mean? Now, that's deep. Nobody knows about that. Nothing from nothing, it came out to the body and then becomes the spirit and then back to Jesus Christ. Yeah.
You got it. You got it, Billy.
Hard to believe. But there you are. I got you, man.
Okay, now let's go into the inheritance. Once Jesus Christ did this, and he created the church, he created the birthright and the inheritance. Okay, the birthright gives the church, as we have been saying for months and years, salvation. And out of salvation, you get to get out of the TV. But with rewards, you become physical. Do you get it? That is what the church has. It has two things. It has a birthright, and it has an inheritance. The birthright gets you out of the TV into the spirit. The inheritance makes you a person in Jesus Christ with a transfigured body, allowing you to walk around in heaven. That is the two things. Now, what do they represent? Well, the birthright represents the intellect. The inheritance represents your emotion. So the mind and the heart are given to you through the church. Your mind is given to you through confession. Your heart is given to you through communion. And you become whole. Why? Because your spirit had to be purified through sin. Right? So you purify it through confession. That takes your faults out.
And then you come back.
Well, they transform into virtues, and you put them back into the physical. See, here they are coming out. Here's your faults coming out. because you're coming out of that television. Your image and likeness are being transformed. Your image is your salvation, and your likeness is your reward.
That's a perfect explanation as to why you should be in a state of grace when you receive.
I knew you were going to get that. And I told you that when I started this.
That is perfect.
Right. You guys got it? Why you have to be in the state of grace?
But it's hard, you know. When you come out of there, now you sin again, you know. You go to
No, that's good. You keep looking at things that are bad.
As soon as you come out there, you sin again.
Yeah, but he knew that. He knew that so that your sins would become virtues. Look, every time you sin, you produce the knowledge of wrong. Every time you take that into the confessional, you get the knowledge of right. So, you go over here in the world, wrong. Church, right. Wrong. Right. You do that for 40 years, and guess what? Your brain goes, oh, I guess I better not do that, and I better do that.
So you got to do wrong to understand it then.
Right.
Because how
do babies know right?
You got to do wrong. If you don't do wrong, how is it going to be right? So you got to try it, you got to test it, you know. What is this? Now, you got scared, you know. You go to confession, but you do it again, you know. But maybe less and less.
Less and less.
In the end.
Right.
Just think how lucky you are that you can do that. How many people don't get to go to confession?
They don't
use
go to
that sacrament of
confession.
penance, and that's where they miss the boat.
Yeah.
That's why a guy can have a doctor's degree in divinity if he hasn't gone to confession. God did not create confession for the fun of it. He wanted you to use it. See, that's what you got to know about that guy with all the knowledge. He's a good historian. He knows everything about the church, but he hasn't saved himself because he hasn't been to confession. He's not in a state of grace.
You
So
know,
where is he going to go now? I don't know. Only God knows that.
I went on vacation with my cousin, and those people in group, all million, they never go to confession. I said, God,
He does in a state of
they
grace.
go
to
to
do
church,
that.
but never go to confession. I said,
That's what.
you guys are silly. You
Confession.
don't understand.
They're not told that there's anything wrong anymore. How many homilies have you heard that you have to go to confession? Not one. I didn't ever know. I write. You don't understand. When that homily is going on, I write notes.
You happen to have one now?
How many people in the church are doing that?
Oh,
Huh? Me. I'm doing it. I'm seeing that they never mention sin, evil, or hell. So why would people be going to confession? They never hear about it.
They don't even mention rosary.
Oh, no. What they do, don't pray it. That's what they mention. Yeah. People are not pushing the rosary in the Catholic Church. No.
And they don't even mention Blessed Mother. Very
The
loud.
Marian priests do, and all the rest don't.
Very.
Before you talk to God,
Yeah.
people want to forget the things. What you going to do? You don't have to go and
Let me tell you another thing. Talk to God, and He will make you holy.
Oh.
So they start believing.
Mm.
I've become perfect. I don't need confession. I talk to God. And I become good. And ask the person in church, well, why do you got to go to confession? You know what they'll tell you? I'm good. I pay my taxes. I raise my kids. I don't beat my wife much.
I don't
That's why. They believe they're good. They do not believe they've done anything wrong. They think if they went to confession, what would I confess? I'm perfect. Well, what is making all of us see our sins is the Holy Spirit. We are being convicted. We are getting guilty consciences
I know.
because we're being convicted by the Holy Spirit.
I know.
That is what's producing it.
I feel good, George.
I was so mad with God. I told him, I'm so good. Why you do this to me?
To me, sure.
Why you do that? I don't, everything happened to me. I don't do anything bad. I'm so good. I was thinking like that, you know. Right now I know I don't. And, you know, for
Yeah,
all
but
those
there you
years I
go.
always
The better you
disobeyed.
become, the more they'll chastise you. Notice if you were a genius student, the teachers would single you out, and they would say, "Hey, here's some hard books," and it would be, "Here's some harder books, harder books," and you would go, "Why are they picking on me?" No, all the other kids, they read the easy books. You, the hard books, because they've singled you out to be special.
And the other kids will hate you.
The other kids will hate you.
you.
What has happened to you and I in the world? The other kids hate us because we're special. Why is he chastising us, Benny? Because he loves us, and we have potential. Chosen.
I don't know why me.
That's what you just said. Well, you've got potential, Betty.
Got potential, Benny.
Well, I didn't
He's gonna be a
know.
great
I didn't know it was.
He's already out there. He's getting results. We have a lot of people, just like Rick.
When I pray,
I guess that almost everybody in the room except Martha. She hasn't brought her saints in.
pretty soon.
Soon.
But the demon will be with you.
Then the demon comes. That's when you beat your husband.
Uh-oh.
Oh, poor guy.
They're not. The demon will be with you all the time.
Okay, let's keep going so I can get you to see. Now, when you hit my stuff, you know, we turn off and I'll give you the rest of the extrapolated story.
Very good. That's good.
Is that helping you? I knew it would help Rick because I was getting to sanctifying grace, and I knew he would see it. And now you can see why you can't touch the host.
But how could you avoid that? You have to go around and wait for the priest.
I do it.
I'm aware of
I
that.
do it. You know how it works every time. I just wait at the end. At the end, everybody clears out, and I go walking down there and get the Eucharist. That's all. If you try to do it in the midst of them, they don't like it because you break up
The line, yeah.
the line. They don't like that. Okay, how are we doing? I love this teaching.
Beautiful.
Now keep the idea. You have to own yourself. Now we're going to learn that lesson right now. Okay, we're going to figure out about self-value. Remember what Lucifer is saying. Can I be of value? Okay, now can you?
Yes.
Okay, tell me how. Now we're there. Tell me how we become of value.
When you worship God.
Okay, here's the two situations. Either we're in our own will, or we're in God's will. Now notice what happened. When Lucifer rebelled, he wanted his own will. Even to the point of only having it for a moment. Now let's picture what really happened. You're going to be Lucifer. And you're going to say to the great Creator, can I have my own will? Okay, now think of an 8-year-old child, and the father says, I want you to get out there and clean up that yard. Now, an 8-year-old child, what does he always say?
I don't want to.
I have time.
Okay? That's Lucifer. How long does that stall last? Do you get it? How long is an 8-year-old child going to resist his father who just told him to go clean up the yard? Not any time at all. He's going to say, what do you mean you don't have time? What do you mean you don't want to? You get your fanny out there and get that yard cleared up. What's Lucifer say then? What's the bottom? What did we used to say? I don't want to.
Yeah.
Right?
Stalling up too big.
Okay. What is the next moment? What?
Walks away.
No. Whack. Would you like to have been one of my children? Perfect kid. Why? My kids, do you think my kids ever spoke to me back? One word, their lives? Not one. You know, my kids were like this. If I went like this, if I was in a room with my 3 little ones, and a stranger came in my house, I would go, you know where my kids would be? They'd be in their bedroom. They wouldn't say, maybe I'll go to the bedroom, I want to watch this program. Nothing. Why? Because absolute obedience. But I was the best father in the world. How come? I played with my kids. When I came in, they wanted to romp. So I'd be horsey. And I would get out the toys. And I was their best friend. Do you notice? You have to do both. You have to be the children's playmate and father. They know the difference. It's like you can speak English and you can speak Spanish. Do you know the difference? You bet. Yeah. You can go one to the other and instantly. Children can do it better than you can. They can understand obedience and they can understand play. But you've got to give them both. God's doing it to you and I right now. We can play all we want, and He's going to come out of heaven and romp with us. He's also going to be our Father forever, and when He clicks His fingers, what are we going to do? Worship Him. Jump. Worship Him and jump. So that is what this means. That is what inheritance means. It means I'm going to come and play with you. And I'm going to take you out of the television. I'm going to make you real. And I'm going to give you your own self-worth, your own free will. But on my terms. You see the difference? I'm not going to give it to you on your terms. I'm going to give it to you. You want to be free. I'll give it to you. On my terms. So, there's, you know, in school, you're in school, you're studying, and then the bell rings for recess.
They all run. Yeah.
On my terms. Okay. That is what Jesus Christ brought us. Lucifer wanted it on his terms. And he didn't get it. Jesus Christ got exactly what Lucifer wanted, except on God's terms. The very same thing.
Yeah.
Okay? So, through Jesus, through the human nature, we have our own identity. We have our own character. We have our own personality. And our identity is in our minds. Our character is in our heart. And our personality of the mind and the heart are combined in our soul. And we're now our own person. And we did it through Mary's son, Jesus. The problem is we have to go back and pick up the good angels. Why? Because they have no inheritance. Do they?
He's talking about angels up in heaven.
Right. Why do we call the Blessed Mother Queen of Angels? Because she brought them the inheritance. So all that we're going to get, St. Michael and his followers are going to get also. So not only did Lucifer, by breaking ranks, he caused the inheritance to even go to St. Michael. So St. Michael will become one with our spirit, the spirit of redemption, through Jesus Christ, and these two will merge with the angels. So you can see what happened. God saw through Lucifer and Eve what the angels wanted, what man wanted, not what he needed. God, when he created the creation, he gave them what they needed. He didn't give them what they wanted because he didn't know. Why didn't he know? Because he gave them free will. And when he gave the angels free will, they expressed one thing. Now, this is what this whole class is about. I want to be of value. What does the catechism, the Catholic catechism, say is the definition of worship? What's the definition of worship? Guess. What you guess? Give me a guess. Benny. Willie, come on, guess.
Adore God?
Okay. What do you think?
Prayer.
Prayers. Doesn't know. Come on, time to be an A student here. What is it? Getting close.
Submission.
Right. Okay. It's to submit yourself unto nothingness. How did we start this class?
Nothing.
Nothing.
So, what does God say he demands of you and I on this side? I demand when you and I are in the same room, you become nothing. Submission. And so that submission is actually what we're doing in the Mass. We're becoming nothing. Now let's define the word. If I'm going to become nothing before you, I'm going to become of no value to you. Do you get it? So now you understand the word worship in a real context. Because you can look back at the very beginning when we started and see that God was of no value to himself when he's asleep. Okay? He needs nothing. He is all things when he's in the no set state. But as filling a void, he also has no value because he has no form. The only value he has is unto his own divine love. In other words, he loves himself. How much? Unto purity. That is what he did. What he did is he turned his love inside and increased it to the point of excluding everything else. When we got to Calvary, we did exactly the opposite. One is implosion. Who's the nuclear physicist here? One is implosion, and the other is explosion. So implosion is what God started as. He imploded his own divine love in on himself. By the way, that's how the nuclear bombs that blew up Japan were created. They did not blow up. They blew in. That's why you notice the ball comes in like this and then it blows out. You watch the buildings all of a sudden. That's the implosion part. So he imploded his love, and in Calvary it blew out. So where did it go? To all of us and to all the creation forever and ever. That is what he was doing. He was duplicating in reverse his original state. And that is what we are doing. We are now actually in this state. We are imploding his love. Here we are exploding his love. And so one way we're taking it in, remember Jesus Christ on Calvary, what did he do? Took our sins. And then he, at the end of the crucifixion, he releases his spirit. So he takes it in and releases it. Implosion, explosion. Now, implosion becomes confession. Explosion becomes communion. Every concept that he uses always comes up confession, communion. Positive, negative. He starts out with a negative. Why? Because we're on the other side. We have to go negative to positive. He came out positive to negative, just like Lucifer did. So we're returning, and so we go to confession to return. We take away our negative. We go to communion to get positive. And as we become a positive force, we then step out of the television and we become a spirit. How are we doing?
Very logical.
Okay, we're good.
Nobody knows that. You the priest.
We're about to save the world. And that's what's happening. And these tapes will become extremely valuable when God says they're valuable. But at least we got it recorded. Like this one that we did. I did a good one for you tonight, Bill. This one helps a lot to see. Yeah. It clearly shows sanctifying grace. What we're talking about is the not touching the Eucharist and why. And how divinity originally started. And then divinity, after it leaves its state of no form or formless, and takes form, and then it actually starts to become human. That's where we are in this whole thing. Okay? Now look. Not only does Jesus Christ come into the television to get us, he then comes back out and he gets his Father. Remember, the Father is going to leave heaven and come to earth. So what does that mean? That means his Father is then going to enter the television. So not only did they have to come and get us in image and likeness and bring us out, which they've done at Calvary, now we're going to go to heaven, get the Father, and bring him here. So it's a complete cycle. We're going to take everything that was negative and make it positive. That can only be done by the negative people. In other words, when they enter the image, then they have to play by our rules. Do you see what's happening? Human illusion is just as powerful once it's been touched by Jesus Christ, because it's just as real as reality. Okay, guys. eat that one. We've now got man's will. And we know this is reality. And this is illusion. But we're now saying that God is going to become human. Now we know this. We know that man goes into the mystical body, travels to the communion of saints. So the mystical body is earth, the communion of saints is heaven. They're really the same thing, aren't they? The mystical body is when you're alive in the flesh. The communion of saints is when you're spirit in heaven. The same group, the same structure. So, it's through the mystical body and the communion of saints that we're going to, here's the mystical body here. And here's the communion of saints. Now look, here we are human, here we are divine, or touched by divinity. And so we can travel from here to there. But the big moment here is we also are going to create a mechanism to travel the other way. Not only that we can travel back and forth, but we then take God and he then can become man.
Well, we're already doing that ourselves as a mystical body. We're already doing that. Right?
Yeah, but we're going, what I'm trying to say is, I'm agreeing with you,
Yeah.
but we're going toward God.
Yeah. Eating divinity. When we eat the Eucharist, you know, we eating divinity.
Right. But he hasn't eaten humanity enough to make the trip back, and that's where it's called the new heaven and new earth, when the new Jerusalem comes back. Get it? Mm-hmm. We are transforming into his reality. He's not transforming into our illusion. 1,000 years from now, he will. We will meet with him, put him in our little vehicle, and bring him to us. We will have completed the cycle. That is what we're doing. We are becoming touched by divinity. He's being touched by humanity. He can't be a man.
So God needs us to give him and transform him.
Right. So he can be, look, he can be divinity, he can be spirit, he can be flesh. Now, what I term these, I call it where he is. Remember the beginning, I call it a void. Then he comes into the null set. And then he comes into the creation. And when he comes into the creation, that's our universe. You're looking at the creation. So now he can travel through all three rooms. Moses was telling us, these are the three rooms. Name them. What are the three rooms? Holy place.
And
Courtyard.
the courtyard and the Holy of Holies.
Right. Okay, three rooms, right?
Yeah.
When he was talking about that, he was talking about these three rooms.
Oh, son of a... What a deep, very deep interpretation.
Right. So, now let's turn them the way we have them. Where we're in the illusion, we're at earth. When we move into reality in the spirit, we're in heaven. And when we actually move into divinity, it's God. So, and we call that the beatific vision. So that, it all makes sense. That's the point. It has to make sense. That the trip that we're taking is heading to God and back. And now we can travel it all we want. All it means is that we have mastered three rooms. That's what it means. How many rooms are we going to have in the kingdom? 3. Why? What's God made out of? Positive, negative, neutral. He's only got 3 rooms. But we're going to get as much out of those 3 existences, or however you want to term it, realities, as we can. So what we're doing is we're taking men, angels, and God. Men come from heaven. I mean from earth. Angels come from heaven. God from divinity. So those are the 3 rooms that we're working with. Now, what I want to show you is the purpose behind damnation. Damnation had to play a major role because there had to be a rebellion, and the rebellion had to be punished. Okay? In other words, what is the rebellion all about? I want to be me. I want my own freedom. That's what the rebellion is about. Now, because the rebellion is centered on that theme, it means that all those who paid the price to fight the war of good and evil have to be redeemed. Are they going to be redeemed with heaven? No. But they're going to be redeemed. They're going to be made slaves in the kingdom. Now, this is my stuff, so stop here as far as logic. My projection or my belief is that all of Lucifer's people are going to go into prison and pay their sin debt. They're going to be released as slaves to the kingdom. Notice that they're exactly back where they started. They were ministering spirits when they started. They will return to the same spot. But this time, they will be clowns.
Yes.
Court jesters. Because they're going to be clowns, they are going to serve God by protecting God. They're going to be like, the guards that protect the Pope. What do they call them?
Swiss guard.
Swiss guards.
Yeah.
Okay, they're going to be the Swiss guards. But let me tell you what they really are. Secret Service. 007.
Well, they got an important job, huh?
Important job. Now, 007.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now listen to their job. If you had a man who was a good thief and you converted him and put him in the police department, what department would you put him in? Robbery.
Yeah.
Okay. Lucifer, what is he good at? Deception. Okay? What has he figured out about the creation by now? All of the cons. Right? Well, he knows what a con looks like, doesn't he, by now? He created them all. He then gets converted. What does he do? He serves his time. If you listen to me, it's 1 trillion years. He serves 1 trillion years. And he gets out. And he becomes the tester. And he whispers in God's ear for all eternity, this is real, and that's an illusion, that's fake. You get it? I believe that all the people in hell will work in the same capacity, and their job is to teach evil from the reverse side. In other words, you can't teach evil till you've been evil.
You master it.
You have to master evil. So, there's another school being created out of the dropouts. And that school will be called the School of Slaves. So, eternally damned is a true statement. They are eternally damned. Why? They never get the presence of God. is. That is why we're seeing what we're seeing. It doesn't mean they're not going to be productive in the kingdom. You know and I know angels are eternal. They do not die, ever. So there has to be a master plan to transform them into a useful tool for God.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they'll do.
When?
1 trillion years.
That is,
One eternity, 1 trillion years.
that's a long time then.
Well, that's what it says in the Bible. They are going to be cursed. They're going to be condemned for an eternity, for all eternity. Well, if eternity ends,
Then we're slaves then.
then they'll be slaves.
That's a long, long time.
But it is an eternity. And I think the Lord told me it was about 1 trillion years.
A long, long.
Yeah, but not to an angel. It's 1 week for an angel.
Is that right?
On our mind is we have a relationship with a never created God. So, how do we exist if he's never created? We have to be an illusion. He is reality. So everything that happens past this state, this formless state of God, the minute he takes form and comes into the creation, he's only creating an illusion. Why? What's he doing? When he comes here, what's he doing? He's simply taking on form. Everybody got it? We have one God. It's like having an Olympic team with one guy. What are you going to do? He's going to have to perform many places, right? We have exactly that circumstance with God. He's got to play all the roles. So where are we? If he's running the program, where do we get in the game? Therein lies the problem, and Al just asked me a few minutes ago how that worked. It's an impossible contradiction. It's a paradox that has no answer. So, what actually happened to create what is all is God. Well, it's like problem is he's in a formless state. So he must be nothing. Everybody with me? This is from last week. Got to get my crew here. You guys remember we had God and he wasn't anything?
Yeah.
And now he's coming out and he's going to be the creation. Now we have the creation. What actually happens, he takes, when he first comes out in the creation, the form he takes is, because he's divinity here, he takes the form of spirit. So that much we know. When he becomes spirit, what I did last week is I explained we had a king who woke up. So we make God with, when he has no form, we put him to sleep. Now, when he takes form, because to take form, he would have to have at least one thought. And that thought becomes heaven and earth. You get it? That's all we have to work with. We have a God, and we have one thought. When the thought comes into existence, it becomes the creation. So he takes form in spirit, because a thought is the spiritual form. And there he is. He's now come into existence. In our story, the king wakes up, and what does he want? He has all kinds of demands. Hey, I need this, and I need that, and where's my clothes, and where's my food, and I want to go here, and I want to go there, and let's get to work. I'm awake. Where's everything going to come from? So he gets this brilliant idea, from myself, I'll manifest the angels. So out of this spirit comes the angelic realm. And so everything is fine because they're created beings and they get their life force. What connects this to this? Well, they have now become life. And this life force that they're getting is the nourishment which allows them to become holy. And their holiness allows them to be in the presence of the Spirit. Are they in the presence of God? No. They're in the presence of His Spirit. Because what if the angels were to come in and go into the presence of God in His formless state? That's what you and I were just talking about. They would have to be God. You get where the problem is. If you're going to be in God's presence in His natural state, you have to be the same as Him. You have to have the same power, the same ability, and we only have one God. In fact, by the way, this is the one God that the Jews were worshiping. When He became Spirit, He came out in 3 pulses. Plus, minus, and plus minus we call neutral. And these 3 pulses we then worshipped as the triune God. And that became the Catholic Church. So, you can now see He comes out as Spirit, and the angels are elated. Why are they so happy? Because they got to exist. So what's the number one important thing in life? To get to exist. Doesn't everybody want to exist? Wait a minute. Maybe it's not. How come we have so many people commit suicide? Maybe existence isn't the only thing, huh? You have to want to exist in what? 3 things. Peace, joy, and happiness. And those 3 things produce acceptable existence. The problem is, how do you hang on to peace, joy, and happiness forever?
Become an angel.
Well, it didn't work for them. They got through about 20 billion years and they bailed out. What was the problem? Now, let's hit this class hinges on this explanation of what the problem was. Angels, you don't exist. Well, we want to exist on our own. You exist in me. You can't exist in you. Therein lies the problem. That was the problem the angels faced. That's the problem Adam and Eve faced. That's the problem the Jews faced. That's the problem the Catholics face today. Who is going to wag the dog? The dog going to wag the tail, or the tail going to wag the dog? And there is where the rubber met the road. And Lucifer said, okay, if I can't exist, then I don't want to exist at all. In other words, if I can't have my own value, here we are.
Do you think he didn't want to exist?
Right, sure. Well, we know he did it. We know what he did.
He did not exist. He just didn't fathom the idea that he couldn't live without God.
He knew, I mean, he isn't stupid. He knew the minute, let's make it this way. I'm going to put on an on switch. Where am I?
The light came on in your mind.
That's old copy.
Now he gets it.
The light came on. Okay, now look, here's the problem. Lucifer knew the score. He had all knowledge. He knew that if he went and threw that off switch, which is what he would have to do, because look, he's got to come out of the blessing and move into the curse. He knew that. He couldn't violate the will of God, could he? If he violated the will of God, he would move from the blessing to the curse. And he knew it. There was no hope. So God said to him, Lucifer, all of you guys, it's not my fault. You don't exist. Now, where do we see that conversation going on? In the fairy tale land. Pinocchio. What was the conversation between Geppetto and Pope Pinocchio? You guys don't look like you're real Pope Pinocchio fan. Pinocchio wanted to be human, and he wanted his creator to make him human, and he couldn't. Remember? And then he goes and he runs away, didn't he? And what happens with his nose? Every time he started sinning, his nose would grow. But how does the story end?
So he became
A little point.
creator. He became human.
He saved his father's life, and because of that,
Maybe it's a lot special. Maybe it's in my mind now.
And he became human. Right?
Yeah, but
So what happened to the life force? Notice where the life force was. The life force was in the father. But the father was going to die, and so the life force moved into Pinocchio.
No, I thought it was in that Good Fairy.
That's the other program.
I thought the reason Lucifer rebelled was because of the blessing.
I know, but I'm clearing up that problem. Here's the real reason. He saw what was coming, and he saw he wasn't included. You get it? I want to be a part of the program. Here you're going to create the Blessed Mother, here you're going to create Jesus Christ, here you're going to create all those good guys. Where am I? What am I, dog meat? I was the first guy created. There was the problem. So does that help you? Okay. But the point being, I have no value of my own. Why? It was impossible to do that. How about us? Do you have any value of your own? That's the message. Okay, guys. Do you have value? Get to talk. Martha gets to talk. Do you have value?
No.
He says no.
Oh, that's maybe a fight.
Oh, I got him, guys. No and yes. They'll argue all night.
You have your own value.
Not that.
Okay, I got it. We don't know.
No, we do know. Okay. Now we know we have divine value. Uh-huh. He's right, he's wrong. Where did we get it? All right. Okay. Well, he got half of it. So, right? Everybody get it? The Holy Eucharist gives you value, and it's the only door that will transform you from nothingness to value. Now, how much value do you have? Okay, how do you get value?
By removing the, by using your free will, giving up your free will.
Right.
By giving
Okay, he got an A here. If you surrender, you give up your free will. And if you do that all the way to big zero, you then become 100% valuable. Okay, everybody got what happened there? Okay, Twilight Zone for Al. We just went in. You better get back to your theology. Did you take catechism?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you'll know this. The word worship means to stand before God as nothing. So when you go to the altar of a Catholic church, you have to surrender until you're nothing. You have to give 3 offerings and 3 gifts. Everybody know what those are? No. Okay. To surrender before God, I got to give 3 offerings. What are they?
Prayer or no?
No, he's got it. Prayer. Okay, keep going.
Work.
Right.
Second one?
Confession.
Yeah.
Don't have any yeses in confession. It's really absolution, but well, confession's close enough. Okay, got it? Okay, here's what we're saying. You have to, before you can go before God, you have to take him an offering, which is for his kingdom, and you have to take him a gift, which is for him. Now, if we're going to pretend Al's a king, and I'm a king visiting him, if I come to him, what is my offer going to be to him? What do I offer another king? Hey, everybody, what do you offer a king?
Your
Right. Okay, so now I give him my treasures, but that was for his kingdom. Make them all rich, happy. Now I got to go back and get the gift. It's something he really wants. What do kings always want? Same thing.
More land? Subject?
So if he gets to be a king, he's in trouble. One subject, a virgin to be his queen.
Oh, well, he's already married.
Well, then how many wives does a king get?
Only one. Only one, yeah.
If he's the king of the Jews.
He's a Catholic king.
Okay, well, let's call him Solomon. How many wives did Solomon have?
Remember King Henry?
Anyway,
1600 or something?
yeah, but you know what his philosophy was, which turns out to be identically to Jesus Christ. How many wives is Jesus Christ going to have? Trillion.
How
So,
does that work?
because everybody in this church is his wife.
The church is his wife? That's only one bride.
Everybody.
In fact, you're his wife, too. You're the only part of his body. That's right, we're just part of the body, yeah.
No, you're not. You better check your credentials on your marriage license. You got a female spirit inside of there.
Absolutely. This is 100% man
Did we ever have a teaching of Macho Man? I hate to tell you guys, that's the way it works. When they raise those 4 cups, you just got married. Same in the Jews, by the way. It works exactly the same. You got to get married to God. Now, the point being that the offerings go to the kingdom, and the gift goes to the king. Now let's switch it around. This offering, which is really confession, is the purification of your mind. Works purifies your heart, and prayers purifies your soul. Now your mind, heart, and soul become the offering. And so when you go before God, you're actually saying, I've taken the knowledge of my mind that was foolish and threw it away, and I've now put in your gospel message.
You're lost.
You're lost. Now, my heart was full of believing and loving money and the world. I took that out and threw it away. I now have transformed into, what do I have now? The cross. I now love the cross. Okay? The third one is, I have purified my soul, which was full of death. It's now full of new life, where I was touched by Jesus Christ.
Why the cross?
Because the cross is the law that goes into your heart and rewrites your nature.
Yeah, but the cross is like, you gotta put up with a lot of...
Well, what are you going to love?
If you don't get the cross, you'll never follow it.
If you don't love the cross, you will never understand truth.
You gotta put up with this cross for what? How long?
Until the end.
Come follow me.
Come follow me.
Come follow me.
So what about like everything you want in your dreams and your hopes and desires? All
That's
that?
not part of it.
Does that all go out the window and...
No, that's what comes in. Where do we, look, you missed the point. Here they are. Peace, wouldn't you like to have that in your mind? Wouldn't you have that joy in your heart? Wouldn't you like to have happiness in your soul?
I thought you got that when you died.
Well, it's a matter of perception, isn't it?
It's impossible to get in this life.
I have it now. How did I get it? You better figure it out.
Do you have all three of those?
Yeah. Of course I do. You ever see a happier guy? There's another one right over there.
Yeah.
Well, we paid high prices for that, didn't we, Brian?
Every
Okay.
day.
Every day. He had to come out alcoholism. And a big, big problem.
That's nothing. I got married.
Yeah, but his problem, he doesn't drink anymore, Willie.
Yeah, but I'm still married.
That means your wife's a saint?
I like that.
We're going to start calling you Al Bundy.
Somebody, I mean, a priest asks, at least, you have someone to go to. But we have to go to the rectory, and live by ourselves, we stay by our, lonely. And I said, yeah, but you don't know the problems I have with my wife.
Right.
This is, yeah.
The other side of the hill looks greener. And it's not. I know it. They all figured it out.
You gotta make it green yourself.
For 40 years I've known.
And how do you do it? You gotta surrender to Jesus Christ and become everything. Because He will take over. All you're trying to do, we're really escapists. We're escaping the world. That's what we're doing. What we're doing is we're going into a belief system which makes ourselves believe what? That we are going to take away our free will and He's going to become our divine will. Then we're going to trust everything we do after that. That is what we're doing. Does it work? Well, I'm here to tell you it does. Brian's sitting over there to tell you it works. It's painful because they'll throw you into the cross, they'll drag you through the mud, and then, after they get done beating on you for about 10 years or 20, they'll let you up. And then you become happy. That's the process. How did Jesus Christ become happy? He went to Calvary. After 33 years of torturous life, He went to Calvary and resurrected. And then, from then on, He had conquered truth, the law, and God's will, and He put them together and made it love. And that's what we're here tonight for. We're here to discover divine love. How do we get it? Where is it? What power does it have? What power will it give us? All of those are to be answered here. That's what we're trying to do. Okay, what I want you to see is the offering, but I also want you to see is the gift. Tell me what the gift is. when you go to Mass, what gift do you have to have?
Forgiven sin.
Money.
Yourself.
The first thing you got to do is we got to get that mind figured out. So the gift becomes deny. What do you deny? Your intellect. So now you're on a blank, aren't you? You've got to abandon
Forget your wisdom.
your feelings. I don't know, I'm lost. No, it's F-E-E-L, right? And now your heart's blank. And then you've got to submit to free will. And now your soul's blank. What happened? What you did is you said, I am nothing before you. That's what the gift is. So now, and we call it in the church dying to.
So then at that point, you would become as the creator prior to becoming or manifesting
That's
himself.
what we're trying to say. Right. We're trying to get back here in the form he wants us to be in, which means we can't have any substance. We can't have form. So we've got to get, when you step in the Catholic Church, you got to get rid of the form.
Hence, reality is an illusion.
Right. That. Okay. Put that mark down.
Mark down.
You got it.
100%.
Perfect. Okay.
In order for that to work,
In order for this to work,
we have to prove that reality is an illusion.
exactly. What it really is, wish I could get this across right. It doesn't exist.
At least not as in the sense that we perceive it to exist.
You should be right. Yep.
Yeah, but it's a belief system. So whatever is believed inside of the illusion exists
As part of the illusion.
as part of the illusion. But from God's point of view, he didn't see anything. The illusion is creating itself. That's the point.
And then when you go back to the idea of that which was never created, or the all-nothing, something that was never created, really, from our standpoint, doesn't even exist.
Right. That's the point I'm trying to drive home.
So
But
it's
what makes
pure
it
faith.
exist
It's just a
is
pure faith.
It's faith in God.
Even though it's a shot in the dark.
Right. Right. And if you think it exists and you have convinced yourself it does, God says, fine, you can have it.
You can have what?
You can have your value. You can be of value to yourself. As much as you can believe in what? He gave you a genie bottle. And you can rub it all you want. As long as you can believe that the genie will come out. We call it the Catholic Church. And the genie came out. And we said, Genie, we want to go to heaven. And he said, then you have to give me 3 offerings and you have to give me a gift. And we said, okay, we'll do that. Now, if you're dating a woman and you go to her house, what 2 things do you take? You take an offering, what's it called? You take a gift, what's it called? You take an offering for the house, called flowers. You take a gift to her, called candy. Identically the same 2 things are used in heaven. What are the 2 things? Your offering is always your work. What did you do for me? Well, the first thing I did is become pure. How did you do that? I went to confession. Did you do any works? Yes, here they are. Did you pray in my name? I did. Here they are. So you had to give God three things when you go in a Catholic church, don't you? Are we doing that? Okay, that's what we're doing. Now, the next thing is, he says, okay, well, where's your gift? It's me. I'm your servant. Oh, that's nice. What will you do for me? What do you want me to do? Can you believe? Oh, I can believe. Well, then take me to your illusion. Well, I want to go there. Now what's happening? Now, you've gone into this. Notice for where there's a key that locks you out is the same key that locks God in. So what are we able to do with our illusion? What's here? It's the power of imagination. What did Jesus say you could have? Can you make a mountain jump in the ocean? He said you could. So what's here? What can you make happen here?
Anything you can imagine.
Anything you can imagine and believe in. You can imagine it, but can you really believe in it? That's hard. Okay, let's stop. New York is not there. Notice I picked a place that shouldn't be. We all believe now, we're going to agree that it doesn't exist. I want any one of you to tell me you just believed it. You can't. Even though you want to. And you're trying. You cannot believe something you don't believe. You get it? But notice, how many of you really believe Jesus Christ is God? Look how easy that was.
That's what happened to Peter when he tried to walk on water.
Exactly. Perfect. That was a nice one. That's yours. Home run. Okay, everybody, all right, how are we doing? We're rocking and rolling here?
Well, he wants us to become as close to nothingness as human.
No. Okay, hang on to that. Now, wait a minute. Don't go too far and go fast on me. At the on switch, what you just said he wants. At this point, which we call positive, he wants that. But this is reality. And we don't exist. We'll call this thing over here play. Now, what did Lucifer want? He wanted a break. He wanted to say, hey, we pray night and day, and we've been praying night and day for 1 trillion years. When do we get a break? When do I get to say what the game is? And God said, but you don't exist. But when do I get to exist? You don't. There's no break. There never ends. We're in a never-ending world. This is it. It's almost like the song, Is That All There Is, remember? Okay, so here we now have the illusion. So this became heaven. This became earth. I think about now. You better tell her this is okay. We're not completely nuts.
This is not about Martian.
UFOs won't land and move you away. Yeah, this is pretty wild class, isn't it? You never thought anything like this. Okay, herein lies the problem. We're going to call this guy God and this guy man. This is what Lucifer asked for. He said, hey, I love to worship God. It's great. Why? What was produced when the angels worshiped God was life. You got to get this now. We're getting in. were being they're being recharged. Worship recharges your batteries. Okay? You guys know what push and shove mean? Tell me what it means. What's push and shove mean? Is this push or is this shove? Which one? Push means the first action. Shove means to shove back. Now what do we got? A pump. You get it? They had to have a pump.
A positive and a negative.
Right. In other words, we had all positives and no negatives. Now we got a pump. Oops, we lost our we lost our negative here. Okay, you got it? I'm pushing, and when I push, what do I create over on this side?
A reaction.
But I produce exhaustion because they're traveling away from the positive pole into the negative. You get the logic?
Like a numeric cylinder.
Okay. Now, Al's going to jump all over this one. How can an illusion push be? If you push me, how can I shove you back if I don't exist? Do you see where the problem is?
So then it's not even occurring then. The shoving back isn't even occurring.
That's
If
right.
you don't, yeah.
It's not occurring. Except in the spirit, it does. In the flesh, it doesn't. In the physical creation, it doesn't. So he created a spiritual, because remember the spirit we got out? So then, when he pushes out here, the spirit shoves back and creates the energy. Hey, you newlyweds, what are you going to say about this? Didn't I just invent something?
So
You know what it's called? Sex. This is the theory of sex. The man becomes exhausted and he's revitalized by the woman. That's why they married, they created marriage. Notice the positive and the negatives have to work together. So he works himself to death, he comes home, he gets recharged, and he goes out. And that's the process they created. Now, Jesus Christ took that process and he's using it identically the same for the church. Okay, how are we doing it? What is this one? We know what it is. Communion. And what is this one over here? Confession.
So the more communion you take in, the more revitalized or...
Right, you notice that?
Life.
Okay. Yeah, the more depressed you get, right? Now look, you're getting more life. You go out into the world, what happens to you? You get destroyed. You come back, get reshot. You're in and you're out. You're pumped. Now your pump's pumping.
It's only on the spirit, it's only, we don't understand, you know, it's only the spirit that is revitalizing, you know, the body.
No, later it will be the body.
But later, but not right now. Right now, it
Well, no, in a way, that's what Jesus Christ is doing to his own body right now. He has a transfigured body right now. Why is he still in contact with his Father? Why is he still in contact with this? Why doesn't he break away? Because he can't. That's what the point he's trying to make. You can never leave this. It's like your plug, no matter how far you travel, it still has to be plugged in. Oops.
Oh, you crossed the line.
We have a violation.
You can only get so far, I mean, so close to the camera.
Okay.
It makes a lot of sense why the church requires when we go to church at least every 8 days.
Right.
There, yeah. Okay, I understand basically where that's coming from, but I guess I don't see the need for God to have became a spirit or to have became matter in order for this to occur.
Okay, show me how.
Well, see, like
Show me how he would do it.
these are concepts that God created, perhaps, and that He is independent. God being independent from the creation and distinct, intimately distinct and separate from the creation. Spirit is a creation. Matter is a creation. These are simply things that God has created but has not become. I don't see the need for why God would have to actually become these in order for this to work. If God is of infinite ability,
No. He never left this state, so he never became anything.
okay. All right.
This, in fact, in my book, I call this is. When he comes in here, I call it I am. When he comes down here, I call him Lord.
You know, it's interesting too because in Hebrew, the word for self is ani, and then you switch that around, and you have ayin, which means nothingness, and then or the ain, nothingness, right? And then that's what God is referred to in the Kabbalah as being self. That's right.
And that's the same place in fact, I took Kabbalah, and the same meaning I'm trying to give you. So you and I are going to talk 100% on target, don't we?
Yeah.
We're not going to miss here.
Very true.
It's just that I'm trying to take all that knowledge you went out and gathered and put it together so the Catholics can understand it. And it's a big leap for them to get from here to here. But Rick, he got it last week. He goes, Bill, got it. That was good. So see, that's where the leap problem is getting from here to here and then trying to tell everybody they don't exist is a real tough thing because they all pinch themselves. And I go, well, in 100 years, do it again. So that is bringing us to the point, where is this pump? Let's go find it. Willie, where's the pump?
Right into the church.
Okay.
In the Sacred Heart.
I got a question.
There you go.
I have a question. We were going back and reading something about, I think it's in the Bible, that we better not mess up. This is like our last chance or something. Is that it? If we mess up, if humanity messes up one more time, that's it.
I had a seer tell me that. Well, that's what God said.
Is that true or is that not true? Excuse me.
Sounds pretty true, but I mean, you know, I know how the whole place works, so don't worry, it'll be fine.
Can you imagine if he did finally get fed up, he'd probably go back to his
Well, no, look at, you better look out, he's going to be heading for the off switch.
So we already know that the end also, what worries? Life everlasting, the beatific vision, we got the whole answer, you know, it's just how.
Is that pump in your Sunday Mass?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're talking about in the Mass itself. Yeah,
You
okay.
have to go every 8 days.
Right. That's
Or
the,
you die.
that's the electricity part. Here's and the year. You got to come back here every 7 days plus every year. So you got to get a recharge.
The more, for instance, you know, if you go daily, on a daily basis, you're going to have overcharge or overpower to do more. Those are the ones that actually do the most in church, because you feel so close to the nothingness, to the God. And that's why you decide, you know, sometimes you have, see, that's what, when we say, you know, we have the love of God, we want to transfer that love to someone else. When you have it, you got to give it away. And that's exactly what happens. You get out of there fully charged, and then you say, oh, I know God. You know, come and love it. Come and do this with me. You know, and you try to transfer that love, pass it on and for going to Mass every day. The more that you go, the more that you want to give.
That's right. Okay, now let's keep going. Now we're going to figure this pump out. Let's keep going with it. Now that we've owned it. Let's see if we can figure it out here a little bit. Okay, I'll give you two words. You know we got God over here. And we got man. I'm going to give you two words, works and prayers. Where do they go? We're now looking at the pump. It's pumping out and it's pumping in. And I give you two words, prayers and works. Okay, guys. Notice worship has to be prayer. And so here's your works, which made you tired. Okay, got it? Now you understand confession. Because you've got to go to confession or you can't pray. Because your prayer won't be heard.
Right? In a state of grace.
Right.
You can't pray in a state of grace.
Unless
you go to confession.
Well, you can't receive the Holy Eucharist, which is the ultimate prayer. That's what I'm trying to say. So you're not.
Remember that God also listens to the
See, when you get a whole,
sinner.
that's when you say your prayer, which reaches the divine Christ. That's what I'm saying.
The ultimate prayer.
Your prayer right this minute is heard, and it's because of your baptism. If you have a baptism, you can pray through it. If you have a confession, you can pray through it. If you have a communion, you can pray through it. Whatever you have that aligns you with God himself, the closer, the closer, the closer. Now, what we're trying to do is we're going to daily Mass. We're trying to push that prayer thing way up to get this generator to hit us harder. And we call that generator what? Life. So we want more life. Pump, 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 more life. I want more life in me. Why? Because when I go out here, I won't die out so fast. Think of a scuba diver going down 300 feet. Is that too far? 200 feet. What happens to him? He can only stay down there 20 minutes or 10 minutes or something, right? So the same with us. When you pump up here at church, you can only end up in the world no more than 7 days, but by the seventh day you're starting to conk out. So we go to daily Mass. Why? We don't get the shot here, the full shot, but we do get pieces.
Which is basically, go ahead.
Well, it's like I get more air.
It's like daily prayer, then Mass is, going to Mass is the daily prayer.
Right.
The daily sacrifice.
Right. But it isn't the same level as a Sunday prayer, or a Easter prayer, or a Christmas prayer. Those prayers are very powerful, and you get a year's charge. So there is works and prayers. Okay, somebody add some more things. Now, we can throw the whole divine plan in here. Does everybody see that we can? You're not smiling, can you? Okay, give me some triunes and we'll see if it works. How about righteousness, holiness, perfection? Where do they go?
Perfection of God.
Okay, but we're trying to get his perfection in the illusion. Now, what do we got to get first? Well, we've got to get righteousness, don't we? That's man, and on the God side, we want holiness. And if we merge the two, we can get perfection. Get it? Now, okay, righteousness means I know the difference between right and wrong. Holiness means I know the difference between good and evil. Perfection means I know the difference between what God wants and what man needs. Now, let me show you what that idea. The man of need is always where? On the bottom. The man of want is always on the top. What God wants and what man needs, the poor need. The rich want. Okay, got it? Okay, now let's build it. If this is want and need, now this has to be from here to here has to be right and wrong, and from here to here has to be good and evil. Height, width, and depth of the illusion. Okay, now this is another hard one for you. Height, width, and depth of the illusion is created by these three forces. In other words, it has dimensions. And we call that, when we're in righteousness, we call it law. When we're in holiness, we call it will. And when we're in perfection, we call it truth. So the dimensions of the height, width, and depth is truth, law, and will.
So actually, you can say in one sense that there's, unless they're equivalent, law and righteousness and perfection.
Well, they can be equivalent, right?
So then, actually, you can have a six-dimensional scheme, a six-dimensional reality or illusion.
Right. Right. And if I want, I can then collapse it and make it 7. Step 7 is when they become 1.
Okay, east, west, north, south, up, down, good, evil,
Right. Height,
past,
width, and depth.
past, future.
Oh, good. Gotcha. Okay. Right. That is exactly what he's doing. That's where he created time. Right there. When he created the illusion, he did this to create time.
A dimension of morality, good and evil.
Right.
If only one person achieved that, our Blessed Mother, perfect communion with God.
That's, okay, now you're into, what you did. Don't tell Al what you did. Okay, well, the Blessed Mother became this.
All of that.
That's what he just said.
She conquered everything.
Yeah, that's the point. Does everybody see the box? Are you, I know this is a tough class. Is this not a tough class? Yes. Do you see the box? Do you see the box he just created?
Yeah.
Let's name it Ark of the Covenant. That's why there was an Ark of the Covenant. Because the Ark of the Covenant was to represent the illusion that we were going to get. Notice what was on top of it. 2 cherubim. Okay, everybody understand? Go back to Moses. Okay, we're back to Moses. We have 2 cherubim. What did they say? What did the one on the right say to God? Okay, I got you. Oh, really? Okay.
What do you say?
Is man righteous? Okay. God speaks to the cherubim, and the cherubim looks down on the mercy seat and says, yes, man's righteous. The other cherubim, he says, what do you have to say? He said, I see man is holy. God looks down and he says, yep, you're right. Man is righteous in the flesh, holy in the spirit, and perfect in before my eyes. Now, when that moment came, once a year, what feast?
Yom Kippur.
Right? Then he said, then he said, you are forgiven. Okay, now, what made him do that? What made him do that? The high priest Aaron came in, he put 3 drops of blood. Sound like an offering, guys? He puts 3 drops of blood on the other side. Does that sound like a gift, guys? And they then look at the blood and do not see past the blood into the box. What's in the box? Okay. What's in the box?
The tablet.
Okay, now we have a box, and we have a guy on this side who is righteous. And we see here the tablets, which is what? It's the law, right? The Torah. He looks down here in the mercy seat, and he sees 3 drops of blood. He doesn't see the tablets. Why? If he looked at the tablets, man's blood wouldn't be righteous. The force of the law would destroy the blood. Now, the other guy looks down and he sees what? Yeah. Now, why did it blossom? Because it's life. Life means holiness. Right? So the dead staff came back to life and resurrected. So when we put the 3 drops of blood, we ask, if man is holy, how do we know he's holy? He held the staff and it blossomed. Why do we know St. Joseph is holy? Huh? His staff blossomed. You get it? That's the logic. Okay. Now, there's one big blood here. What's below it? Right? Okay? Now, what's the manna idea? Eucharist. Right? But nourishment. Okay? So the soul has to be nourished by bread from heaven. So bread from heaven, he looks down and says, yes, he ate bread from heaven, so he's perfect. So now you understand communion.
So that bread of heaven wouldn't be, is it possible that it could be just a poetic way of saying?
Oh, sure, sure. We're just saying this is what they meant. So this is, you got to realize this is a 3,500-year-old teaching. And it's been traveling for 3,500 years. When something gets old on this planet, look out. It probably has something to do with truth. Mm-hmm. Even China. Their teachings are probably all true. Everything Confucius was saying probably had great meaning. It's just the people that got it didn't understand it. You know, it has to be, all the teachings have to be blended in so that they come into a complete tapestry of truth. All this is the motor. This is the engine that's going to run everything. Now you got to add everything else around it, and that's what all the other religions are for. That's what all the other philosophies of life, communism, socialism.
I'll say the other ones are dreams and ours are reality.
Well, we're going to use. Wait a
This is
minute.
what the Pope talks about in his book.
Yeah, that's what he told in his book.
No, in the book he says that they all have a bit of the truth.
Yeah, that is true. But back to what he said. This is reality, and this will allow everything to become real.
He says that they all have a bit of the truth, but when he's asked, is only Rome right? He says, without it, there's no salvation.
You're right about that.
Everybody can have their both of the truth, but if you don't have this, you don't have anything.
In other words, it's the fulfillment of his word. You know, if you don't eat my body and drink my blood, you will never have life everlasting.
That's right.
That's it.
Sure. And that's why we work so hard on this one aspect, because we know that without the host, there's no existence. Okay. got reality. Okay, we got a reality and illusion, and we now clearly see that it's a belief system. Is it a reality? We're not real. We never will be. We are only in a belief system which is made real through Jesus Christ. He's a genius. And he's going to give you reality.
What I don't get is that at the end, when we get to the beatific vision, I mean, the resurrection of the body, that doesn't become real?
Nothing. Even the beatific vision must look at it.
I thought that at the time, they're going to get a body, we're going to get real.
No, here's what he's saying. You can never be this because you'd have to be God. If you're going to be real, you have to be God. You can't do that. But the beatific vision allows you to see into it. Now, can you see no form?
Okay, no, but then, okay, that's the point. When you see the form, that means, you know, that you are in the life force.
Yeah, that's the point.
Wouldn't you just be seeing a reflection of the form?
Right.
A reflection
Not only that,
of the
he's making a point. You're actually looking at the life force. You're looking at what is being presented through the imagined view, not the real view. You get it? In other words, it had to be translated. What's happening is Jesus Christ is running in there and saying, this is what it would look like. You get it?
That's why, for instance, Moses was only able to see the back.
Exactly.
The back of what?
Good point. And this is the back right here.
Really?
Right. Good point. Good point.
All right. I missed that. How you gonna get married if you keep missing everything?
And he read it. He read it. We're having a real go tonight, aren't we? All right. Settle that hash, guys. That was a beauty. Mark that. Boy, this tape's got to be a loaded one here. Okay. Now, let's try to keep going and show you how the reality and the illusion interlace all of the triunes. And that's what we're... Let's take being. Let's come into being. Well, you can only come into being here.
True being, right?
That's as close as you're going to get to reality. The idea here is man is trying to get here, and God, in his spiritual form, is trying to get here, but they can't meet. Why? Because you can't be God. You can't even be God in spirit. So this is what you're trying to be, and you're trying to have something. What are we trying to have? What is this whole course about? Value. You're trying to be reality. Can't. You're trying to have value. And now you're going to do, and what are you going to do? What are you going to do to get value? Gotcha. How are you going to get value in the world? Look where you are. You're over here, you're exhausted. What do you have to do to get back here to worship?
Communion?
You got to go to submission.
So it's like...
Communion's here. See, here's communion. That fired you out. You got close to be. You got your own value. You are now due. You went into exhaustion. Or exhaustion.
So mission will get you to the state of grace, that's what you're saying?
Yeah, that would be a preliminary.
Preliminary to the state of grace then.
Yeah. Submission really means the word confession.
So then we're all searching for a sense of value, or we're trying to define a value for ourselves in the midst of a cruel illusion.
Beautiful. Okay, hang on. So how do you do it? get that?
By virtue of by virtue of our condemnation to freedom, condemned to freedom.
Okay, hang on, wait a minute, you're going too far. You're really singing along here, wait a minute.
Condemnation to freedom. What does that mean? Does it mean free will or what?
Condemned to freedom.
In other words, you had to sacrifice yourself, which is being condemned. My God, why have you forsaken me?
Be nothing.
Being nothing to get freedom. That's what you're trying to get, okay? And see, to get that freedom. Okay, now look, this thing has to turn into imagination, because there isn't any freedom.
Right. Well, I was going to say, maybe this is a thing of semantics, but I didn't understand what freedom from what.
Well, the rebellion, the original rebellion was we wanted to be freed from eternal worship. And you can't do it. This is the step of the impossible. Do you get it?
That's what we're in existence for, is just to worship God forever and ever, never.
Right. And that is how it ends up. Do you get it now? He's going to get what he wanted. Precisely what he wanted from Lucifer, precisely what he wanted from Adam and Eve, he's going to get. Who's giving it to him? Gotcha. Okay, come on. Who is making God perfectly happy? No, Jesus Christ. Because he's going to sacrifice himself to always worship him.
So he gave up his human existence. He sacrificed his human existence for the better of his, for God, the Father.
Okay, go back to your divinity teaching. It's there. It's exactly what you were saying. You were showing divinity traveling.
So as followers of Christ, then we have to basically, we have to believe that everything that we do in this world is futile.
Just the opposite.
No,
You're now free.
we can't be free.
In belief, you can. You don't have enough faith. You get it? It's a. What you do, Willie? What you do with this?
Well, I have to understand quite a bit.
You're all right? Yeah. It's pretty much what we've been saying all along.
Yeah.
It's just that we just added one dimension. All we did is separate the real God, who never can be anything but God. That's all we're saying. And you're going, well, where did all the rest of this come from? Therein lies the contradiction. The paradox is complete. That is what we were trying to do. We're trying to explain the paradox, which is the impossible except in Christ. Because you now know the worship becomes Christ and the play becomes Jesus. And so we have both. But we can't play too long, can we? Because we got to go back and get recharged.
I think that some way, somehow, we haven't developed all the way through. We haven't gone to. That is for us Catholics. I believe, at least, the reality is going to become when you go through the fire, it purifies through fire, like gold. He says, like gold gets purified. Then you can be in the presence of God.
Just His Spirit.
Well, the Spirit, but the Spirit, no. Wait,
you don't understand. You are in it right now. What are you
no, the Spirit, Then the resurrection of the body, that's why the body is going to be attached.
No, you're not getting it. Go the other way. Why are we going to get that Spirit? Because we're going to bring it and make God man and then be in His presence. We're going to reverse it.
No, He's going to reverse it.
Okay.
that some way, somehow, we haven't developed all the way through. We haven't gone through. That is, for us Catholics, I believe, at least, the reality is going to become, when you go to the fire, it purifies through fire. Like gold, he said, like gold gets purified. Then you can be in the presence of God.
Just his spirit.
Well, the spirit, but the spirit, no.
Wait, you don't understand. You are in it right now. What are you talking about?
No, the spirit, Then the resurrection of the body, that's why the body is going to be attached.
No, you're not getting it. Go the other way. Why are we going to get that spirit? Because we're going to bring it and make God man and then be in his presence. We're going to reverse it.
No, he's going to reverse it.
Okay.
Yeah, he's going to reverse it. But for us to get in, the only way we can get it is by totally be purified through the
Yeah, when you're purified, are you divine?
No, it's not the divinity. We are.
Okay, that's all you got to tell me. What is it?
Well, it's. This is one of the mysteries of God, like the Trinity, It is. This is what confused all of the Hebrews. They some believe that they have resurrections, others didn't believe.
Right.
Okay, now us Catholics, the same thing is happening to us. If we don't believe in the true resurrection of the body being attached to the spirit,
But we do.
to be in the life everlasting on the beatific vision.
We do.
Yeah.
But we do.
But if we get to that state,
All I'm telling you is you are never.
No, it's not being never God.
That's all we're saying. We're not saying anything you're saying. You're saying that we're going to make that transition into the presence of God. Yes, we are, but into the presence of his spiritual being, which is going to be a guy sitting on a throne called God the Father. Yes, we're going to make it there. But we're not going to go through the beatific vision and become God.
No, you never said that.
That's all. That's what this teaching says. Now, to get around the problem, we're going to take this guy out and put him through the Spirit and make him man. What do we call that? Mystical body of Christ. Now, you're right.
Okay. That was my point right there. I had already been there, and I knew that I had to go to work.
Did you get that one, Rick?
In that sense, where does God the Father go?
No. We've got both now. We've got the mystical body of Christ, okay? God the Father is going to run heaven, isn't he? And this Spirit God is going to go into the New Jerusalem, and he's going to forever be in the city of the clouds, okay? And he is going to commune with his people on earth through the mystical body of Christ. And when you get to heaven, the mystical body of Christ becomes the communion of saints run by St. Joseph. They're the one and the same thing. So we now have both. We have the physical world and the spirit world, and they're complete. I know it's tough.
No, I didn't.
No,
No?
No.
no, I think it goes back to when the apostle asked Jesus if we could only see the Father. And he says, if you see me, you see my Father. If you see my Father, you see me. I live in him and he lives in me. So when you see Jesus, you've seen God. He's there. That's what I won.
That's what I was trying to reverse it, and going back to say, God wants to become man.
Right.
But he already did that.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't transformed. He hasn't. No, he became man, but as his son. He wants to become a man as the Father.
But the Father,
He hasn't done that yet.
well, no.
He will. It will.
It would be too hard to explain something that he had, for anybody, for any human being. But God, the Almighty Father, is Jesus. He already became man.
No.
Yes, he did.
The Christ Spirit is the God Spirit. And he, the Spirit, became man. But we're talking about a physical being because he's going to live in us. Do you see the difference? What you're talking about is a spirit. What I'm talking about is flesh.
No, mine is when he resurrected, he got the divinity of spirit.
His spirit was divine. Wait a minute. And his flesh is Jesus. He's a man. All man, all God.
True man and true God.
Flesh is the true man. Spirit is true God. So you're right there. I'm just telling you that body you're talking about will then become the church. And when it becomes the church, he will physically live in us. That's what he's after. What is Lucifer trying to do? How does Lucifer get recharged? Everybody know? How does he get recharged?
Yeah, he prayed.
Through our sins.
Through our sins. So what was his idea? Hey, what happened is when I left the on switch and I went to the off switch, I started to die. Which meant what? I stopped being holy and I started being evil. And the farther I get from the switch, the more evil I will become. Right? Yeah. Until, what was his name when he was created? Lucifer, angel of light. What's his name at the end of the book of Revelation? Cast into the outer darkness.
Well, he's going to be.
So he goes from the on switch
From the light
to the off switch.
So he won't repent?
Doesn't repent. So
He can't.
So the point being that how does he stay alive now? He uses us. And his idea was, if this is direct current,
He's actually stooped even lower than what he was thinking of, because
yeah, he's less than nothing.
if he couldn't sit and kneel and worship, or not worship, if he couldn't accept that a woman would